If there is one word to describe Evil Dead 2, it is groovy. Hello everyone, you're on an all-new segment of The Final Cut, and today I'm going to be going over Evil Dead 2 from 1987, directed by Sam Raimi, starring Bruce Campbell. Yes, this is a sequel to the iconic horror film The Evil Dead, and that was actually a very successful film financially for being a low-budget horror film. Stephen King, yes, the author Stephen King, was a huge fan of the series. And Sam Raimi ended up going on to other films after The Evil Dead, one of them being Crime Wave, which didn't really go so well in the Hollywood studio system. A lot of post-production stuff happened, production stuff, and it pretty much was heavily edited and out of his control, and it bombed. So to secure his future, they decided to go back to The Evil Dead, and Stephen King was a huge fan of the original film, and he had connections with Dino De Laurentiis for a film they were working on called Maximum Overdrive. And he was such a fan of the first film that he told Dino De Laurentiis, hey, finance this movie, the first one was great. And that's what pretty much happened. Dino De Laurentiis financed the Evil Dead sequel, and Sam Raimi got to work in a much larger playground with a bigger budget. Of course, Bruce Campbell returned as Ash Williams. He's so iconic in this, and this is the first time we really get to see him as like the kind of crazy badass version of Ash. He's a very different character than in the original Evil Dead here. And yeah, I love it. I love how successful it became and how they made this movie, how Stephen King was a fan, how Fangoria helped. And it really goes to show you what a great talent Sam Raimi was with that original on a low budget, and the certain gritty nature of it really adds to the horror aspect of that film, but what really makes this as the much larger budget. Also, Sam Raimi kind of changes the formula and makes a dark comedy. There's a lot of comedic moments here. That's a very hard thing to balance. Comedy and horror do not mix well. Very few people can do it, and one of them is Sam Raimi with this film. I mean, it's like when you see science fiction and horror combined with like The Terminator or Alien. That's what Sam Raimi does here. Now, contrary to popular belief, this isn't entirely a remake of the first film. Sure, a lot of similar things happened, but the only part that was remade was the opening. We get a recap of the events that happened in Evil Dead, and the reason why they didn't use footage from the previous film is because it belonged to another studio for distribution, and they didn't have the rights to use that footage again. So they pretty much reshot iconic moments from the original film and tied it into this film. So you don't really have to watch The Evil Dead to enjoy Evil Dead 2, and in many ways, that's why it's kind of like a soft reboot. I love that whole opening, and then Ash, instead of dying like we were led to believe at the end of Evil Dead, he's transported backwards. It got Bruce Campbell on a truck, had it really fast, and he was just there moving. Such a crazy sequence. There's a lot of stop motion animation used in this film as well. The people who did Nightmare on Elm Street and Nightmare on Elm Street 2 did the makeup for this, and there's some just gnarly stuff in this film. But in addition to Bruce Campbell, we also have Sarah Berry as Annie Noby, Dan Hicks as Jake, and Casey Wesley as Bobby Joe. Ted Raimi also plays possessed Henrietta. That's Sam Raimi's younger brother. And I love the supporting cast in this. Of course, we deal with Ash being possessed at the beginning of this, and he's dealing with his own sanity. That's where a lot of the comedy comes in. There's a cool shot with the mirror. Him chopping his hand off is just utter insanity. He's fighting for his soul in this, but he's fighting for survival as well. And we have the daughter of the professor from the first film that's mentioned, and she thinks Ash killed her father. Like, where is everyone in this cabin? So her and her boyfriend are there, as well as this guy named Jake and Bobby Joe and Jake. They're kind of like hick people, but they're just cool characters, you know? There's a lot of conflict with Ash and these new people. They think Ash is a madman, and Ash basically has to explain, no, there's deadites here, and I opened the Book of the Dead. And it's kind of like the first movie again, where they have to fight for survival. Things happen for the first time. And yeah, Ted Raimi as Henrietta is creepy as hell. Like, she was creepy on the Ash vs. Evil Dead series, but here, with stop motion animation, she's just disgusting. There's some crazy stuff in here with the special effects, the type of shots they use. The trees, again, have a larger role in this that were kind of hinted at in the first movie, but you get to see more of them in this. And yeah, I love the finale to this. A lot of great comedy, a lot of great horror, and this is just a fun, time from beginning to end. This is one of the best horror movie sequels ever made, one of the best horror films. No wonder it became a cult classic. And even though it basically was made with a lot of money, it was popular. It didn't do very well at the box office at the time. It did well internationally, but domestic, it didn't do as well as other films. But through the use of home video, Laserdisc, DVD, Blu-ray, it became a cult classic, and it's just a cult favorite now in this Evil Dead franchise. And this is Sam Raimi just going balls out crazy on a comedic horror film. And I love it. Even to the part where Ash gets his shotgun and chainsaw. And I also love the character of Annie. She is a smart, independent woman. She's no damsel in distress, and that's very rare for a horror film, especially at this time. She's not a teenager, you know, she's an adult. And she actually, in some way, saves Ash in this film. There's a good scene where Ash is possessed, and there's some scary moments where you're like, is the main character going to make it out? You know, you don't feel safe in this. But there is that callback to Linda's necklace, and he gets his humanity back. And there's just so many crazy moments in this. I love the way the characters are written. The script of this is very well done with the special effects. And it was a time before CGI, so to see all this type of stop motion animation and practical effects is just amazing. And who could forget that cliffhanger at the end? We get a cameo of Sam Raimi, and it's just the medieval Dead there. Overall, Evil Dead 2 makes the final cut, and I'm going to give it a groovy score of 5 out of 5 and an A+. If you've never seen the Evil Dead series, I highly recommend it, but definitely check out Evil Dead 2. It's my personal favorite out of all films, and this is just an amazing horror film. They don't make them like they used to, what can I say? And yeah, ultimately they went on to make Army of Darkness later. That was a bigger studio film, but here, with his bad experience making Crime Wave, they had an opportunity to film at Dino De Laurentiis' studios, and Sam Raimi is like, no, I don't want to film this at a studio. I want to get no studio intervention whatsoever. So he basically location scouted, and they went, found a cabin, found some woods, and shot on location. And they also used a bit of a high school for like the cabin wherever they filmed, and it's just great. This is just awesome. And yeah, it just goes to show you when there's no studio intervention, when people go out to make a movie they really want to make and everything runs smoothly during production, you might create a work of art. And that's what Evil Dead 2 is, a horrific work of art in the best possible way. So if you haven't seen the Evil Dead 2, I highly recommend it. If you have seen Evil Dead 2, let me know what your favorite moment is from Evil Dead 2. What's your favorite Evil Dead film? Just let me know down in the comments below. You can follow me on the Stardust app at Fred Film Fanatic. Like, comment, and subscribe. Here are some more groovy videos you can enjoy on my channel. And stay tuned for next time, in which I'll go over Army of Darkness from 1993.